Please know you can join us on Zoom by going to the Portland Insight Meditation Community website, portlandinsight.org, and joining us there. You can find the link. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. I'm Robert Beatty. It always seems a little off. I am. This that sits before you has been known for 73 years as Robert Beatty. He, it, they have been increasingly less convinced that this is exactly who one is. There's still enough identification, though, that it was a little hard getting out of bed this morning and a little grumpy crossing the backyard in the rain. Not much, though, under the tree. However, I'm in my beautiful little house, and I am grateful for that. And this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, and we're located in Portland, Oregon. So, I like to say the date. What date is it? It's the 25th, oriented as to date. Lovely to see you this morning. Some very familiar faces, some faces that are new to me. So I hope this morning is helpful. In fact, I hope this morning is utterly transformational, so that from here on in, we all remember that which we really are. And I have a nice little teaching about that this morning. I don't have an attribution for it. It's called Taste of Wisdom. A yogi grew tired of his apprentice complaining, and so one morning he sent him for some salt. When the apprentice returned, the master instructed the unhappy young man to put a handful of salt in a glass of water and then drink it. "How does it taste?" the man asked. "Salty," spit the apprentice. The master chuckled and then asked the young man to take the same handful of salt and put it in the lake. The two walked in silence to the nearby lake, and once the apprentice swirled his handful of salt in the water, the old man said, "Now drink from the lake." As the water dripped down the young man's chin, the master asked, "How does it taste?" "Fresh," remarked the apprentice. "Do you taste the salt?" asked the master. "No," said the young man. At this, the master sat beside the serious young man who so reminded him of himself and took his hands and offered this. "The pain of life is pure salt. No more, no less. The amount of pain in life remains exactly the same. However, the amount of saltiness we taste depends on the container we put that pain into. So when you're in pain, the only thing you can do is to enlarge your sense of things. Stop being a glass. Become a lake. Become a lake. So, where does awareness come from? Is there a little person in there, somewhere behind your pituitary gland? A little soul that's in charge or tries to be in charge of things? That, quote, has eyes, has ears, has a nose, tongue, feeling body, has a mind. Is there someone, something that has ownership over this? Or is it really an inexplicable mystery? And that it is the awareness of the universe. It is just awareness that arises moment by moment. A moment of seeing with seeing consciousness. And no one to attribute it to. Becoming the lake. That's our practice. Little froggy throat here. And to assist us in that practice, I take refuge in whatever that mystery is that's awake and doesn't need my little self to hold it. I take refuge in the Dharma and the way things actually are, so I can relax. Things really are very unstable. That's becoming clearer and clearer to me. I bet it is to you too. You can work pretty darn hard to create a stable life, and in a moment, in a heartbeat, that stability is gone. And we practice with friends, with colleagues, with compatriots on the journey of awakening. So we take refuge in Sangha. And we live among other beings, billions, hundreds of billions of them here on the earth alone. I take refuge in my place in the web of life. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I'm warm here in my little house. I'm warm because human beings figured out electricity. There are people sitting in power stations right now. Somebody built this electric heater that's here. 2 bright young fellows came and did the wiring on my little house a few months ago. So I'm comfortable because of the work and attention and loving of thousands, millions of people. So let's bring to our hearts gratitude. Gratitude. Tomorrow is American Thanksgiving. It has some rather unpleasant and sordid history, of course, but as I understand the story, it was really brought to life after the Civil War, when families were torn apart and they needed a national holiday to help get people back together. So whatever the case, Deb says, let's call it Thankful Day. Amen. I'll go for that. Thankfulness Day. Gratitude Day. Let's make every day Gratitude Day. Helps with the whining, I think. This life is too salty. Well, it's also pretty sweet. So let's notice that the body is alive again or still today in this moment. And we go beneath or before any thoughts about it. Beneath or before having someone to do the thoughts about it. And let us notice that it breathes. And it's not I am breathing. It's breathing itself. Each breath has its moment of beginning. Awareness receives it. Awareness co-arises with it. It has its rising to fullness, its decline, and then its vanishing. Thoughts have their moment of arising, doing their dance and then vanishing. Emotions, moods, at their own pace, come into being, do their dance, and vanish. Thoughts and emotions intermingle, support one another. By stopping, by sitting down, by putting aside all productivity, the way of things is revealed. We relinquish the countless ways we contract and become the glass. And we rest fully in that which knows, that which is awake, in the Buddha, in Kuan Yin, in whatever imaginal form we would place on it. But the experience is simply of the existence of phenomena and that which knows them. We can be aware of the entire body. Within those clouds of sensation, there's something we call breathing in and breathing out. We make that our home base. Though our true home base is the field, that which knows these phenomena.
Sometimes it's helpful to insert the noting practice quietly, with no violence. When awareness discovers the mind wandering, there's the quiet noting, wandering, wandering. When it notices an emotional tone, happy, happy, sad, sad, blissful, blissful, or restless, restless, desire, desire, aversion, aversion, returning, returning, rising, rising, falling, falling.
Sometimes awareness stays effortlessly right here in the present moment. Breaths come and go, thoughts come and go. Maybe there are no thoughts. Maybe awareness just deepens and deepens into the mysterious aliveness of the body. Or maybe there's lots of restlessness, some worries, some planning, maybe obsessive planning. Or some fear. We land increasingly in heart-mind fullness, in the ability to let everything be as it is. Not personal, not mine or me, just this is happening. Each breath is a lifetime. The beginning of the breath is long ago when the breath reaches fullness. Fullness is long ago when ending is reached. In this way, we go outside of time. There's just now. What if there truly is nothing to achieve? And no one to achieve anything? What if you've already arrived? You're already a success. Sure, we can tinker with achievement and revealing the personality as more and more loving and compassionate, capable. But what if the finish line is already here now? And you've made it. Everything from here on is gravy. It's just more flourishes in an already complete mandala of life. We can add some beautiful wishes. On the in-breath, may I be happy. May I remember my great wholeness, pre-existing. May I remember to see beyond the blinders of separate identity and ideology. Resting in the beauty of your being, in the mysterious aliveness of this body, in the fact of hearing. And imagining forward right now, most probably in a few moments we'll, quote, end this meditation. And then the day lies before us. What plans do you have? What fantasies of the future exist? Will you be leaving home today? Driving the car? Walking? Will you be sitting at a computer? Will you be washing dishes? Taking a shower? Taking care of children? Cleaning up the garage? Imagine what your plans are. Some of them will likely happen. Will you be comforting a friend, a family member? Will you be doing some exercise? Why not form a very clear intention to do it all mindfully? It's so easy and habitual to fall into the separateness. I'm doing this now. And it's also so easy to fall into the irritation of things not working out right or somebody not fulfilling their part. We can tighten up and feel some resentment. Instead, why not form an intention to be grateful for everything that happens, for every little bit of help you receive, every little bit of encouragement. And generosity. How can you practice generosity today? You've already made a large investment in generosity in taking care of yourself, meditating. What random acts of kindness can you participate in today? For yourself. Maybe an extra hour this afternoon to nap and rest and meditate a little more. Or to sit and read something that you've been wanting to read. Make space for yourself. So in the present moment, we create plans that affect the future. And now, please drop into the body, into its remarkable aliveness. And letting awareness come into the feet and legs and torso and all the way up to the face. Being alive. And now doing whatever's needed to let your eyes open and watch the mystery of seeing. And it's not that someone is seeing or I am seeing, it's that seeing happens. Strange, isn't it? Thanks for coming to be together this morning. There's that weird word, I watched Joseph Goldstein the night before last, Joseph and a young woman who's been training with him for some years, and a fellow who works at or runs the Buddhist Studies, Barry Center for Buddhist Studies in Massachusetts. And one of the things that one of the things that arose in the conversation was how Joseph has had a practice of taking 2 months a year to go on retreat. That's a devotion to practice, isn't it? And within half an hour after its ending, I had scheduled a short retreat for myself. And that is that I'll be gone from Sunday afternoon, December the 13th, through the 19th. One of our community members has a tiny little ancient cabin at the beach that I'm going to go to. Again, I've been several times before. And I've already arranged, I don't know the order, but the other teachers will be continuing the morning practice, so this will not be interrupted. But I share that with you with some celebration, because it's very difficult for me to just do that, to stop being responsible and so on. So I'll remind you of that again, no doubt. And also advertising-wise, on the 5th of November, Kendall and Gary will be offering a day of practice. December. Thank you. Right. Disoriented as to month. So, what's happening with you folks this morning?
Robert?
Hello, Janine.
Hello. I thought I better check in.
Okay, good.
Several people reached out to me yesterday, and I look a little beat up, I guess.
Can you tell what the other person looks like?
It was the sidewalk, so I don't know.
I
But
see.
yes, I mean, I had a fall and broke my wrist and banged up my head, and part of it is I have a concussion, so I don't remember what happened.
Uh-huh.
But I'm fine. The good news is I'm fine, except my concentration isn't working very well right now. But everything else seems to be working except my right wrist. So it's amazing to find out how much we depend on our hands for almost everything, and me more than some people. So
Huh.
that's been a challenge, a good way to find out creative ways to do things and practice not being frustrated.
Hmm.
But a thank you to the Sangha and to you, and I have been tuning in every day. Since I found you guys on June 11th, Friday, when I was in the hospital, was the first day I missed. So I think this has helped me get through not only what I'm going through now, but just in general, helped me get through this time. So thanks to
How,
everybody for that.
how's the pain level on this?
Oh, it's there. It's kind of mostly a throbbing pain a lot of the time, and then if I do something, hit my hand or try to use that wrist or something, it'll get worse for a while.
Huh.
It's it's there.
Well, do take care, and we will all be holding you in love, of course.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
That's quite a shiner.
And because I don't see myself, I didn't even realize I had one. So it wasn't until everybody started commenting on it that I realized, oh.
No, it's very impressive. You must have landed really hard right there.
Evidently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thanks for checking in. Hey.
Okay.
Come on. Oh. Oh. Here's my pal. He's being very tolerant. He doesn't usually let me hold him much. All right, off you go. Ooh, see, will we have a crash? No. Here we go. All right. Hi. Oh, boy. It's take my dog to work day. Might be good to remind also that tomorrow, American Thanksgiving Day, we're going to gather at 3:30 for a gratitude practice. 3:30 to 5. Here, the same link. Also in the morning, 7 o'clock.
Hi, Robert. This is Leanne.
Hello, Leanne.
Hello. I have a couple of sort of technical questions. Um, One is when you do the noting,
Yes.
you always say the word twice. Is that like an echo? Or is that
You know, custom. Not necessary. Just wandering would be fine.
or it could be three times, or
Yeah.
it would just be.
Well, if let's say you were under, let's say there was a lot of fear happening. You might say it 50 times. As I recall, I did a fair amount of noting the day after my brain surgery. I was pretty psychotic at first. They gave me a medication that just did not work, and I was caught in this complete delusion, which was that I had to figure something out. There was something I had to figure out. I had to get the answer to this. And in order to get the answer to it, I had to be attentive and pay attention. But I had no stability of awareness. And the consequence was, in the delusion, if I didn't figure it out, I would die. And I had, even as I think of this time, I have some PTSD feeling about it, and sadness, and on every breath, on every in-breath, I experienced this incredible terror in my chest. It was just terror. And I remember saying, terror, 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 fear, fear, fear. This is fear, this is fear. Trying to have some, and it went on for 100 years, was the experience. It was the universe. And so it was helpful to be pointing it out as an object rather than me. Yeah. Same could be true with great concentration and bliss, though if one is, there's that problem. If there is awareness of it already, then the noting becomes quite redundant. I remember very early in my practice, I did a couple of months of very intensive practice, and my teacher had me noting everything, very much in the Mahasi Sayadaw Burmese model. And I was noting and noting and noting, and a few days or a week into the retreat, enough cloudiness went away that it became obvious that the noting was an extra thing that I was adding, and it was sort of a distraction, like let me make this effort to note, when there was just clear noticing already. And I went to him and I said, the noting seems really clunky. And he said, well, drop it. So it's a strategy, a useful strategy.
Yeah, I learned, rising, falling, just
right
of the abdomen. That's been one that I use.
Mm-hmm.
Another technical question is just on your website, or on your blog, part of your website, you have a diagram.
Yeah.
And all over that diagram is ADA. I don't know what that is. That all-day awareness. I don't know.
That's it. Any other guesses?
No.
I would pop it up here, but I'm on the wrong computer. Down in the bottom left of the diagram, which is where I started in the class, there are the three characteristics of existence: anicca, dukkha, anatta.
Yes.
And that whole extraordinary list, I think, of body, feelings, mental formations, and so on. That we study that whole extraordinary list in order to make it apparent that it is all anicca, dukkha, anatta. That the wisdom of the having a little flood of gratitude right here. The Eightfold Path is such an extraordinary model and way of life. And the teachings on mindfulness are so so strategic, so orderly, and so profoundly liberating. And the liberation comes from realizing it's all just coming into being and disappearing, and so on. Yeah. I have used ADA as my little acronym for 40 years, actually. It's all ADA.
I actually, the all-day awareness is not original. I was Googling it. I was Googling ADA in the context of mindfulness, some whatever. And that was the only thing
It sounds to me like there's synonyms, or ADA is all-day awareness is a strategic practice to realize anicca dukkha anatta. Thanks. Good question. I hadn't intended for those diagrams to stand on their own, but it would be good if it did better. So I'll think about that.
Morning, Robert. It's Michael.
Michael. Hello, Michael.
That discussion just reminded me of a conversation we've been having the last week or so. You mentioned a few weeks ago Jack Kornfield's A Living Dharma book.
Yeah.
Various masters, and I've been reading from it the last week or so. And I was reading the Mahasi Sayadaw section, and in his introduction to that, Jack Kornfield talks about the noting. And he has a comment that he says that the noting shouldn't be more than about 5% of your effort. That 95 should be in the feeling and 5% in the noting. And we've been talking about that word effort, the 5% of your effort versus the 5% of your actual practice, if you will. So I don't really use noting all that often, but it doesn't seem like he's saying you shouldn't use noting more than 5% of the time, if you will, but just that your energy shouldn't really be focused there. And I just wanted to see if you had any elucidation on that.
There's an experience I've had many times, and I've had many people come to me and describe they're having it, which is I'm doing walking meditation, lifting, moving, placing, lifting, moving, placing, lifting, moving, placing. And then I discover that I'm walking along going lifting, moving, placing, lifting, moving, placing. Meanwhile, thinking about taking the dog to the vet and so that's when noting has become 85 or 90% and the actual object of observation has diminished to nothing. So I think that's what that implies. It's that noting is intended as a support for bare attention. And anything can become robotic. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Is it a tyranny to have these spotlight things come on? Do you hate it? And you want to get off the screen pretty fast? Let me out of here. All right, I'll do it. There. It's me. Sort of. It's my package.
I have to say, on my computer, for some reason, there's a remove spotlight button, and we're on Jessica's computer today, and I can't find it for the life of me. So, thank you.
I think I think it's helpful to see people really clearly when they're speaking. Maybe a little difficult for some. Please feel free. I beg your pardon?
I had the remove spotlight before, and I did remove it another day, but today it wasn't there. I was frantically looking for it and missed most of what Michael said.
Oh, huh. Yeah, on two or three occasions, we've had a topic, and we had three or four people talking about the same topic, and I liked having them on the screen at the same time. That seemed like a panel or something. And if you ever are spotlighted and don't want to be, just say, kill the spotlight, and I'll be happy to do it.
People can turn on speaker view if they're on their computer, if that's what they
What
want to do.
what was
You can
that?
see who's
Tempest?
speaking. People can turn on speaker view on their computer if they're on a computer. You can't turn it on when you're on a mobile device, but if you're on a computer, you can turn on speaker view. And speaker view, I guess, technically is the default on a mobile device because if you leave it alone, whoever's talking is going to come up as the main
Uh huh.
image on the thing. And so, yeah, like if you don't spotlight people, but folks on their own computers have speaker view turned on, then they're going to see whoever's talking as their main image.
Oh, oh, that's interesting. So I could just leave it alone, and it would spotlight the person who speaks, so to speak. Huh. It would make me less useful.
No, you're always useful.
I think I'll try it. Oh, I see. I see.
Hi, Robert. It's Valerie. Hi,
Hel-
Tonga.
Hello, Valerie. Now I don't see you, interestingly. Where are you, Val? Oh, there you are. Hi. Oh, are you treading water?
Trying to get your attention.
All right, you got me now.
It's funny. I don't know if other people feel this, but I'll want to share, and then I'll be all intimidated about sharing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to jump in. It kind of goes with the topic that I'm going to talk about. I've been a healthcare worker for over 30 years. I was a dental hygienist, and I became a lactation consultant, and I got degreed in that, and through COVID, I decided not to do hygiene for healthcare reasons, and I also got laid off from my position. And so right now, I've had an opportunity to create my own business, which is I make jewelry, and I've done that for over 20 years, and I taught jewelry making through our library system, and it's kind of like dancing for me. It's always been such a joy to be able to make jewelry and give it away. But it's so funny how over the last couple of months I've had that imposter syndrome thing come up where you're really a healthcare worker, you're not really an artist. And but I've kind of pushed through the fear and the intimidation of not knowing how to use a computer. I've thought of Tempest so many times about like, how do I do this? Because I've had to watch a million videos to be able to do a web page and create a Facebook business site and, different things. And growing up in a household with an alcoholic, it's like if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. And I just I had to keep telling myself it didn't matter that it wasn't perfect. It's okay the way it is. I can create art. I don't have to label myself any particular thing. So anyway, I let that fly this week and I brought it up and oh my gosh, I've had so much weepiness and fear and anxiety over it. And yeah, you're shaking your head. I knew you'd get it.
Hang on here. Where is it?
I've been reading it.
This little thin thing took 5 years. Lots of the time I couldn't even work on it. It's like, it's just what I know. Who cared? Who would care? And all this, it's personality baggage and personal inadequacy and it's so, I applaud. You pushed on through. Despite the personalities, we come out of our childhoods, many of us, so wounded. And it's very deep. It's not just thoughts. It's the very emotional attitude to life that we developed in the first 2 to 3 years. Primitive.
I'm still friends with one of my mother's good friends, she's now 95. And when I was 3, my dad was in a really bad accident. I was the last of 5. And she reminds me that I would basically beg her to take me. That I wouldn't eat too much and I would keep my clothes clean. And I have this picture of us when I was 3. So definitely deep wounds. And I've done a lot of work to work on all of that. But I realized when I brought my art forward,
right,
it brought a lot of that.
So not only does the world get to have your art, but you get to be a person who did not succumb to the silencing, to the shame. Huh. How are you doing now sharing it?
It's vulnerable too, but I started to share yesterday because it seemed like the thing was there and it didn't happen. So today I told myself to just jump in and do it.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I still have to figure out more things about it, of course, and how to market it well and blah, blah, blah. But yesterday was the first day I went back to my jewelry bench and just started making more jewelry. And it was the best day I've had in 2 months because, having to figure out all the computer stuff and blah, that's really hard and really painful. And just being able to create is like dancing and or cooking a meal. It just feels so joyful. So I went back to give myself some joy yesterday, and I'm going to do that this week.
Yeah. It's interesting to me how impermanent the shame is. Actually, I just shared with someone yesterday. I have a very favorite book called When Good People Do Bad Things. It's not that kind of insipid book on, I forget the other title, but when bad things happen to good people. That's not, I didn't find that so helpful. But anyway, it's by James Hollis, this book. He's a Jungian analyst, I'm very interested in his work. And anyway, the first paragraph is, the I that I know does not know enough to know that it does not know enough. The I that I know does not know enough to know that it does not know enough. And then the next few pages essentially say this. I think this is my shorthand. The conscious ego is a fragile island, fragile, floating on a vast sea of unconsciousness we call the psyche. There exist within the psyche autonomous complexes, operative word, autonomous complexes, that can and do usurp the ego. So there's the highly functioning, competent Valerie, who's got all kinds of adult skills and so on. And there's this complex, which is 3 years old and which is very unsure of herself and which is really dependent upon the outer world to give her structure and support and encouragement. And she has memories and thoughts, and she's as real as the ego. She's down there. And then when a torpedo comes in, which could come from oneself or another, and activates that, all of a sudden, where's the grown-up Robert? He's treading water. That's where we began. And can get blown, and sometimes we get blown into that, and then we go into our strategies of alcohol or drugs or shopping or just freaking out, and then we've lost our way again. So bringing in the Dharma and the Buddha, and however else we frame that, then allows illuminating this whole process. And then you take a chance like you've been doing, and you get to really ride the waves, and then gradually make friends with that complex, which is real as anything else. So congratulations. And while I'm at it, you might take a look at this fantastic book. I keep getting feedback from people. Oh, chapter 3 is really important, and it's so well written and it's concise, and I love it. I love hearing this because I doubted it from its inception to its publishing. And I thank Laura Musikansky, without whom it simply would not have happened. It just would not have happened because she listened to my talks and transcribed them. And when I would lose heart, she'd say, come on, let's meet. And we'd work on it. And very important. Little restless dog again.
And cheerleaders definitely helps.
Yeah. Well, and people who see us when we can't see it, when we're caught in our complexes. Oh, Jesus, Udo, knocking over the camera. Don't do that. Any other sharing? Where are we at? Oh, a little bit after.
I just wanted to hop on this salary and say that one thing that I have been particularly sort of like I would fight against this in our culture is the idea in our culture that you can only be one thing. Like, you can be that job that you do. And also the notion that if you're going to do some kind of art, you have to be really good at it and commercially successful in order to be called an artist. But art is about playing around and doing stuff that feels good, and you don't have to be commercially viable necessarily to be an artist. And I know that you want to make your art commercially viable, so that's a separate thing, but whatever happens with that, you can still call yourself what you are. And it makes me really happy because I also have made jewelry. I don't have all my jewelry stuff with me because for the past 5-6 years I had sort of been a vagabond, and so I only have 1/8 of my stuff where I am right now, and I don't have any of my jewelry stuff, and I really miss it. And so it makes me always really happy to see other people doing my stuff. And I also Dave put a link to your website in the chat, and so I'm definitely going to check that out. And yeah, it's, we have a lot of just like societal, cultural baggage about things, but like not everything has to necessarily be any one specific way for us to find joy and fulfillment in it. So I'm really, really glad that you are sticking with the jewelry. And yeah, that's it.
Tempest, would you please lean aside for a moment to let us see your recent art piece? Lean to the right or the left. There we go. Paint chips. Thank you.
Hey, Robert, this is Tim.
Hi, Tim.
I just have a quick something to add to that. As you know, I was counselor at LCC for about 36 years, focusing on the arts division. And one of the very best parts of my job was talking to students who came and said they wanted to take some art. And it was really fun helping them realize they didn't have to make a career out of it, although some wanted to try despite the challenges. But just that, I encourage anybody who's at all interested. PCC up there has non-credit community ed art classes. Anywhere you are, there's probably people offering classes if you would find that helpful. And it can be a really wonderful way to just dip your toe in it or develop wherever you're at even further. So.
Thanks, Tim. I just read from Alethea. I just started learning guitar. I am totally a guitar player, just a really bad one. But it brings me such joy. Way to go, Valerie. Yay. Support that.
Good morning, all. Francine here.
Hello, Francine.
Just a quick story that made me giggle and giggle and giggle. Yesterday, I was walking in a park with a friend, and we were masked and 10 feet apart and out in a nice park. And one of our friends has not been COVID safe. And we were both going to jump in immediately and start judging her. And I just felt this as, how could she? And how come she doesn't know better? And my friend looked at me and said, Francine, we are not karma. At which point I just let it go. Good reminder, we're not in charge.
I had a kind of jaw-dropping experience yesterday. I was walking on a trail with a friend, a tarmac, whatever's tar trail, about as wide as my room here, and 15 or maybe a few more 20-something men, very fit, all long and lean, dressed in running clothes, came by in a pack, and they were very close to each other. One person at the back had a mask, and they passed me actually 3 times, and they were, they're all breathing hard, and they're in this pack. And the second time they came by, I got very bold, and I said, "Where are your masks?" And the third time they went by, 2 or 3 of them lifted up their coat to have masks. But where are these guys coming from? It's so strange. I find it very interesting. Odd. How many people died yesterday? Over 2,000 a day now is happening in the United States. And it's just revving up. I mean, we're probably going to get to 4,000 or 5,000 people a day in the next few weeks. It's awful. Quite stunning. On the other hand, that's a very kind of a downer. I find it very pleasant to actually, the little bit that I've watched, to actually appear as though there are grown-ups taking positions of power. That's reassuring. Tearful. It's like mom and dad stopped drinking or something. You know, they went into treatment and maybe we're all going to be safer.
Hi, Robert. It's Dave Mayer.
Mr. Dave.
I wanted to add something to the artist conversation that just struck me, and I've just because of the way my life is run, I've had my feet in different worlds between theater and music and opera, and I have observed how people have gotten into an art form or an art and developed their talents out of love for the art and made a profession of it, and at the end of their career were, well, I have one friend who has done something like 350 performances of Carmen, phenomenal mezzo-soprano, and she says that there's nothing more tuned to kill your love for music than to go into professional opera. And I've observed it in theater where actors who came up through high school and college and the sense of community and really built themselves, theater saves lives in that world, and then think they'll take it off into the professional world, and it's entirely different where you become objectified, and it's really, really hard to hang on to that core that drew you to it in the first place. And I applaud Valerie. I just think just make sure that in all of the business and the surrounding stuff, don't let it destroy your love of what you do, because that's where the art is. That's what it's for. And Alethea too. You know, love the guitar and stick with that, and don't feel that quote unquote success is going to define you as an artist, because there are many, many, many unhappy artists out there who gave their lives over to the quote-unquote profession.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Dave, one of the first questions I would ask someone who came in and said they wanted to take classes or be involved in the arts is, what role do you see this playing in your life? Are you going to try to earn a living at it, or is it going to be for fun and fulfillment? And it can be both, but if you're going to try to earn a living at it, I got 2 or 3 people I want you to go talk to.
Well, I mean, if you follow the celebrities in the movie industry, it's those are not a lot of happy people, yeah. And it's not so much about the art. And those that have succeeded in that, like a few in mind, but they are able to hang on to that core despite the immense pressures on them. But it's really, really hard.
You really have to admire artists. Bob Dylan comes to mind. People who just say, I'm going to redefine myself, I'm going to be who I am. Madonna has done that to some extent. People who just say, I'm not going to be defined by the world, I'm going to continue to create. I can remember being in a music shop in the mid-60s when Dylan had just gone electric. And it was such a big deal. It was huge. Oh my gosh, Dylan's gone electric. He's left his roots, and so anyway. So yeah, that role. What is art going to play in one's life? And often a healthcare occupation with art. You know, in many ways you've got it all, because you can work just about anywhere, and you've got art as another part that enriches your life.
And then there are ones that get destroyed, like, you know, John Belushi, Prince, Elvis.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. I need to go. Shall we sing our way out of here? Ready? Want to unmute? May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I think we should go pro with our singing. We could clearly sell 1 million copies of this. All right. Happy day, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.
Love you all.